off, we gotta talk about that. The history and culture of Doujinshi, which is really a lot more fascinating than you might think. And where all the furry stuff's hiding, because I could not find answers when I was in Japan until I went looking for it. So the second half is gonna be the lab, which is basically, I got a collection here. We're just gonna come up and look at it. I have safe for work on the left and not safe for work on the right. It's surprisingly about an equal balance. And you can't judge my taste. I am the professor and I will fail you if you make fun of me. So, with that said, I'm going to hold off on questions till the end because I want to get through this and let everyone start looking at stuff. So if you have questions at the end, come talk to me afterwards and we'll chat about it. Okay, so I went to Japan. This is how I ended up here. I took my friend Dolphy here and a couple of other human friends on a trip to Tokyo. And during that time where I sacrificed into a Rayquaza, I came across an interesting store called the Akiba Culture Zone, which was a general anime otaku store, theater, it's kind of everything. It's in the Akihabara district of Tokyo. Point being, I went in there and I saw an 18+ curtain and I was like, well, I hadn't thought about it, but why not? Let's take a look. When in Rome, you know? So I went, I looked in there and I saw furry manga, and I was like, you know, I didn't even think about that because I had just gone to my first furry convention for SonaCon 23 about 3 weeks before I went to Japan. I was like, I wonder how much furry stuff I can find here and in all of Japan. So that ended up being the next week of my life, was collecting doujinshi from all over Tokyo and Kyoto, specifically furry doujinshi. And also as many plushies as I could physically carry. Who has a guess to how many plushes I bought back from Japan?
75.
Actually lower, but thank you.
40. What's he say?
Your last guess.
I'm going to say 36.
58. You're close. A lot of little ones, but that dragon is my favorite probably. Anyway, yes, I brought back 58 plushies, gave away about half of them and half of the other half of my collection. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about what is doujinshi. So does anyone happen to know already what doujinshi means? Not you. Raise your hand.
I believe it's like self-published, like manga.
Yeah, pretty much. You got it there. Is it just hentai? Well, yeah, kind of, but it's more than that. So what it means, literally same person magazine, but more accurately, it is self-published print work. Usually, it would be similar to a fanzine in the US. But that can take the form of, it's usually manga, but it can also be light novels and that sort of thing, or just art books. So if you take the shi off there, and you just have doujin, it just means same person. So what is a doujin? It generally refers to a group or a circle of like-minded people, like hobbyists or fans of a specific thing that work together to work on something. So a doujinka would be a self-published artist. Doujin game would be like an indie game. And a doujin soft would be like hobbyist software that a group gets together to make. So now that we know what it means, let's talk about it in biological terms. Who remembers Punnett squares? We got biology people in here? Yeah, you know, okay. So let's imagine this as a Punnett square. We've got existing IPs and original characters, are both different flavors of doujinshi. We've also got safe for work and not safe for work. You've got something like this. You've got something like this, totally an original character that's not neutral. You've got something like this.
Hey, I recognize that one.
All my sources are cited are all E6. And then you've got something like this. The most degenerate of all, of course, being not safe for work original characters. All of this is doujinshi in that term. It can be any of this. Surprisingly, it is split about evenly, safe for work and not safe for work. What you don't see, well, mostly in English, you see the not safe for work because you get stuff published in Japan, and who's paying for the translation? Horny people who speak English. So that's why you see mostly not safe for work stuff in English on the internet. So I want to talk about where it comes from, because this is where it gets really interesting and kind of diverges from the culture we have in the US. So has anyone heard of Comiket in here? There you go, yeah, we got some people in it, okay. So this is, I would say, Japan's premier doujinshi convention, but it's the entire world's doujinshi convention. It's been held annually since 1975, and I really like the story because it follows kind of the pattern that furry conventions have followed. It just got way bigger. So right now, this convention sees about 100,000 plus participants per day. They've gone down from being a 4-day convention to 2-day ever since COVID. But in their last 4-day convention in 2019, they saw 750,000 people attend, which is about 3 to 4 times of the San Diego Comic-Con. It is massive. They have about 30,000 Doujin circles vending at these events, but corporate sponsors are also there to sell their merch and promote their IPs. So they're working in collaboration, so keep that in mind. These provide limited run comics per event. So you will see comics are published specifically for a Comic-Con and then never published again, which makes them sort of a collectible, especially if you follow specific artists. Most artists do not make a profit for this. It is very much a hobby, a passion project type thing. Some of them do get big, but you know, it's like Hollywood. It's like a very few that get to the top. I want to show you an example here of one that I have right here. This Undertale Doujin. It's made, it's very cute, but it's made specifically for Comic Market 90, which was in 2016. That was the only time it was ever published. So if you really wanted this specific Doujin, it might be hard to find. But fortunately, there are so many of them that if you're not looking for a specific one, but for a genre, you will have quite the pick. So I'll set that back down. So what is the legal status of Doujinshi? This is really interesting and why it kind of works in Japan. It's treated like parody would be under US law. So, you know, you can make fun of something like Scary Movie and the original source material wouldn't get away with suing you. But the hobby is, this whole Doujinshi hobby of fan art, fan fiction, is highly encouraged by publishers because they want to grow their branding. They want to be popular. They want the fans to like the IP. So to comply with the publishers, although it is still kind of a legal gray area, the publishers generally have these rules that are like, don't profit too much from it. You can make your money back, but don't go crazy. Don't spread it too far outside these conventions. Don't hurt our IP's reputation. In other words, don't make us lose money. If you making Doujinshi helps their business, great, keep doing it. If it starts to take their business, they're gonna come after you. But another thing I didn't mention here, in Japan, it is required that the person who wants to sue for copyright has to be the holding company, the company that wants to sue. It can't be a third party suing on behalf of another company. That's why in the US it's a lot easier to sue someone for copyright infringement, because you can just have a third party protect your IPs, and then we have a YouTube situation where you just have a few companies farming these copyright strikes for videos. You can't do that in Japan. So that's how it works differently over there. I want to show an example again. I love these little guys. I don't even remember their name. They're just so cute. The red dragon here wants to protect the little white guy, and there's a lot of fun. But he's very cute. So the point I want to make here is, it's kind of hard to see on this monitor, but they have these messages, these disclaimers in the back, which are kind of what you see in the US, but a little different because these are independent artists that write their disclaimers. But I like this line here. I'll read it out for you. Viewing or transferring this content to anyone who is disgusted or uncomfortable with its content is strictly prohibited. Those who do not understand Doujinshi and derivative works, if you don't read it, trash it. Please observe the above rules. Basically, this is made for the fans. If you're not a fan, don't even touch it. That's kind of the running attitude in the Doujinshi community in Japan because it keeps them on the good side with the publishers. So, that's the Doujinshi half of the equation. Let's talk about the other half and why we're all here today, furry. Who knows how you say furry in Japanese?
Kemono.
You got it, yes. Kemono. Not kimono like the thing you wear, but kemono. One letter different. It can also use the term kemoner, which is slang for a furry. Basically, it's the Japanese equivalent of furry fandom. And another thing I want to call out here, because it is hotly debated within these communities, is kemono mimi, animal ears. So you can see on the top here, Pokemon, very much kemono. Fursuits, very much kemono. We have Sabaru here from Kemono Friends and Inuyasha. They're very much kemono mimi, which is a form of moe anthropomorphism, which is you take a concept like a cat or a dog or a refrigerator, whatever, and turn it into a magical anime girl or boy. That's a different art style than just Beast, which is the more animal stuff that we see in the furry community. Some people argue this is not furry, this is furry, to the point where there's whole diagrams like this on it. The first one is definitely Kemono Mimi. It's a magical anime girl with ears. I've done the service of translating this for you. Thank you, Google. Let's climb the stairs to Kemono Mimi. Starting on the left, ears and tail only. I've become hairy. I have fur, so it's okay to take it off. The skeleton doesn't look human. Running through the fields and mountains. Although I do like the English derivative of this where number 5 is just, please reconsider. This is why I got the real translation. So yeah, where does furry doujinshi come from? Now, of course it comes from Comic-Con, because Comic-Con has all kinds there. But there's only one event in Japan that is specifically dedicated to furry doujinshi, and that is Kemoket. You can see the wordplay there, very clever. It's been held semi-annually since 2012, so it is much newer than Comic-Con. And it only sees about 1,000 plus participants per event, so it is smaller than Fursona-Con is right now, probably. You don't have the numbers out, but I'm pretty sure that's smaller. It's the only event, like I said, that focuses on a furry doujinshi. And the reason I couldn't really find any better pictures, I found this on someone's blog from Vietnam who traveled to go sell their work at Kemoket. And they said in their blog that taking pictures inside the building is prohibited. That's why I couldn't find any pictures inside, but he did take a picture of his own stand. So you can see, this stuff on display there. So I thought I'd also mention that there are other furry conventions of similar size in Japan. Two of the biggest ones, the Japan Meeting of Furries and ChemoCon, are about the size of FursonaCon, maybe a little bigger, and those are the biggest furry cons in Japan right now. So it is a much smaller scene over here. They don't have an Anthrocon or anything like that. So it's really interesting to find the crossover between these two, we'll call them art forms. So from the artist point of view, what do the artists like about the culture right now? Well, it's a great way to build community with fans and other creators. Mostly they expect to do this as a hobby or along with a side job, so it is something you can do in your free time. You don't have to commit to it full time. A lot of people just work on one inside and make a little money off it at the end of the year or something like that. And it's a great opportunity for amateur artists to start a manga career. And the big corporations I told you that are also at Comic-Con, they are scouting for new talent at this event. They want the good up-and-coming manga artists to publish their fan art so they can bring them on and maybe even make their original characters into the next big manga in Japan. That has happened plenty. What do they dislike about the community right now? Scanlating works is generally frowned upon by the community because everything we've said so far, this is a work meant for the fans in Japan. Now, it still happens, obviously, but when you put that art online against the artist's wishes, it does put them at a little legal risk, because if it gets popular, which has happened before, the copyright holders in Japan can be like, you gotta take that offline. They're like, well, it's out of my hands now. I can't do anything about it. It can harm their relationship with the publishers, and they don't get any control over the translation. If a fan translates or pays for someone to translate it, they don't get the final say. So it's kind of a death of the author situation. That isn't to say never scanlate, but if you want to follow the rules, if you want to be part of the community, ask the artist first. And this could be hard to do because of the language barrier. I don't expect everyone's going to go out here and try to communicate Japanese before uploading their art. But that's really what the community would like people to do. Secondhand sales are not ideal because the money doesn't go to the original artist, but again, these are limited run comics. You'll see in a lot of these, they don't want them resold for legal reasons, but it happens all the time. Everything I have here, I bought secondhand, but I blame that on the language barrier. I bought a lot of these on trips to stores, so it's like I had no other way. I couldn't go to Comic-Con. I don't speak enough Japanese to get anything out of it. But buy direct if you can. If you have an artist you like and maybe you found a work secondhand, check their Pixiv. They always leave links to their own sites in these books. Find something they're publishing now and see if you can buy that. Give them a little donation if you can. That's one way you can support the community. So I wanted to call out this Dragonite one that I wanted to point out the messages they kind of leave for the fans at the back of all of these. I have the translation here. I often visit the Mandake website. Now that I think about it, there are a lot of anthologies out there about Pulmonal. I've never seen a Dragonite anthology before, so I've decided to make it myself and started a project. The naughty Dragonites and of the wonderful participants, I'm happy to see so many of them. Thank you for taking the time to contribute. So it's really a community of artists got together to make Dragonite porn, because they're like, there's not enough of it. What a nice wholesome thing. I wanted to call out, I thought this was interesting. There's 2 typos, it seems like, from the translation. I know that's supposed to be Mandarake, which we'll talk about soon, and Pulmono is supposed to be Pokemon. And I looked back at it, and it's because they're intentionally leaving characters out. They're censoring the copyrighted store names. Like that should be Pokemon and Mandarake. They just put a circle there. So Google Translate didn't know what to do. So.
Wait, read the last line.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about this. We hope you enjoy the sexy cuteness of the original 600 type dragon. Do you want to explain what that means? You had to explain it to me.
I didn't get 600 type dragon.
Okay, that's completely separate from the actual porn. In Pokemon, there are a type of Pokemon called pseudo-legendaries, which have a base stat total. If you're dorky enough to know what that means, then that matters to you. And Dragonite was the first Pokemon to have a 600 base stat total and be a pseudo-legendary. So it's just an in-game term.
That is a deep cut reference I did not get. So, respect to that. These are the real Dragonite fans out here. So, I'm going to take you on a little venture. The one I went through across Japan as I spent a week looking in bookstores for this stuff. Much to the chagrin of the other people I was traveling with. I would come to a restaurant at night with a black bag and be completely exhausted. Like, what'd you get today? Do you want to know? So let me give you some simple lessons I learned when I was in the field. Male versus female doujin shops. Now, a lot of shops, they do, in fact, pretty much all of them, divide up their content by male versus female. You can pretty much guess what that means. The male content is much more pornographic. The female content is more romance focused. It might sound sexist, but it's Japan, so that's, that's how they categorize these things. I did not take many pictures indoors. If I did, it was just of labels, because I'm very much respecting people's privacy being anywhere in public, but especially in these stores. The more not safe for work, the more they cost. So if you're unsure how pornographic something is, just check the price tag compared to everything else. If it's 200 yen, it's probably pretty tame. If it's 2,000 yen, pick it up. So I would advise, if you're going in these shops, check for both the Kemono and the franchise-specific sections. I'll show you what I mean with that when we get to it. But be smart with Google Translate too. This is how I was able to navigate knowing zero Japanese. I figured out the words for Furry, Kemono, Kemono Mimi, the animator's name, Pokemon, which the full name is Pokédemonster, but they know what Pokemon is. That's just the short name. And then I got a sentence that I could do back and forth on Google Translate that didn't change, so I knew it was probably pretty accurate. I'm not going to try to read it, I'm too tired for that. But is there a section related to this? That way they can answer yes or no, and if they answer yes, they'll probably point you to it. You don't need to know Japanese to get an answer out of them. So that's the kind of thing you want, simple answer questions. So let's start. So the first building I mentioned earlier is the first one I looked at in Akihabara, which is very much the otaku district of Tokyo. It is just a general otaku store with some doujinshi. I had about 3 aisles of it. Interestingly, I also got a Japanese copy of Final Fantasy VI here for like $5. It was great. So I asked for Kemono, and I was taken to Kemono Mimi. They had some furry stuff in there mixed in with the other sections. And the Pokemon section, which is something I'm interested in, had both Kemono and Trainer Doujin. So it was all kind of mixed together, not really divided Kemono specifically, but I got a few interesting things there. I did want to highlight the label there. It says Kemo Mimi. They just dropped no. I didn't really see that anywhere else, but I don't know. I think some people call it that. When you Google that, you don't get many results. But I don't know, that label was different, so I thought it was interesting. Book off, very commonplace, recommended for tourists to check for manga. And this one's interesting because they do have shops in the US. They are going to sell you manga there, but they do not sell doujinshi. So complete waste of time for what I was doing. But no, it's still a cool store. Highly recommend checking it out. Melon Books. This one's really cool because they focus specifically on new release doujinshi, which means as soon as the creator makes it, if they're selling it comic yet, they might also sell it through Melon Books that you can go buy in a store. So like a bookstore, it's going to have fewer books and several copies of each. So you might see 50 or 100 copies of the same book sitting there. It was a very bright and clean store, but it was so weird being in there. It was like a culture shock. You had people in there shopping with their partners, just like a casual night out, and there's just so much porn in your face, like in every direction. It was so weird, but it was fascinating in a way. They only had one furry dojo now, so that gets an X for me. This one, Suragaya Specialty Store, another otaku shop that was about 6 floors high. They make very tall stores in Tokyo, lots of floors. In their male doujin section was organized by kink, which I thought was interesting. So you have like the femdom section and the, what else? I'm blanking on this. But anyway, they had a whole bunch of different sections based on kink. Furry was considered a kink in their store, not like a genre. So I like this one because they labeled it Furry level 1, level 2, and level max, like a Final Fantasy game, which I thought was hysterical. The literal translation are beginner level, intermediate level, and you can't see it, but advanced level. But I love that they numbered it like an RPG. Only level 1 had anything in stock though, which was Kimono Mimi, so it's animal ears. Level 2 and max were empty. So I have to assume, judging by the chart from earlier, that would have been actually the furry stuff. So I didn't find anything there. K-books and Akihabara. Again, plenty of male doujin that they had huge aisles for it. I asked the staff for kimono, and they giggled at me and shook their head. 0 out of 10. Next door. Okay, Mandarake. That is the jackpot. This is where you want to go in Akihabara. On floor 4, they had the male doujin. On floor 5, they had female. All the floors are labeled. And I'm showing a lot of Japanese text in these pictures. In Tokyo, pretty much everything's bilingual. There are English signs for everything. I did not know any Japanese when I went. I've only been studying since then, so I know a little now. Yeah. They had a full row of new release kimono stuff, like Melon Books did, but they also had an entire shelf, floor to ceiling of backstock, so the secondhand stuff. Plenty to sift through there. The furry variants of Pokemon and Undertale, which were 2 things I'm interested in collecting, they were mixed in with the general kimono section. So it's like, for them, it was furry first, and then IP second. See, it's different at other stores. K-books and Ikebukuro. This is an interesting district. Has anyone heard of this district before?
Yes.
Okay, you probably know more than
I'm
me.
supposed to be going there next month.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so what district is this?
My girlfriend would know that.
She would. It's the Yaoi district. This is where they have lots of shops catered specifically to female doujin, which is going to be it's Yaoi. There's a lot of that there. But I wanted to check out the district anyway, to see what they had. This was a really nice store. It was so clean, probably cleaner than any bookstore I've been in the US. There were 15 K-book store on Atomedore, which is the street where all of these bookstores are. 15 stores. And I found a paper map on it that informed me the second store was the only one that had Doujinshi. So I went to that one and looked around. A huge selection. I highly recommend checking out just because there's so much cool stuff there. It's organized by IP so well. It was down to specific Pokemon games. Like you could get Pokemon like Omega Ruby Sapphire for the specific Doujinshi shelves. There's so much. None of it was furry, not a single piece. It was all focused on the human characters, which, okay, cool, not what I'm here for, next door. Now, also in Ikebukuro, they had another Mandarake store. There are a lot of these in Japan, and they're very good for what we're looking at. They had a mix of male and female doujinshi there. It was in a basement. I could only find a picture of the locked staircase. I didn't take a picture when I was there, unfortunately. But yeah, it's down a spiral staircase underground to get to it. They had, this one is where it was IP first and then Furry second in some of the cases. So like the Pokemon section had a subsection for Furry type. So you get the idea. But other Furry stuff like Undertale was just in the Furry, all the Undertale was just considered the Furry section. So it's worth checking both the franchise and the Furry sections is all I'm getting at. The Mandarake in Shibuya, this was probably the coolest store I went to. It is, it's 2 floors underground. You enter it from what looks like a cave on the street in the middle of Tokyo. And you go down, it feels very haunted. It's also about Halloween, right? There's their decorations up. Literally decorative flickering lights and like spooky music playing. It's so cool. And then you have this huge sprawling floor underground that you can get lost in. It is so cool. And they have tons of toys and everything there too. Adult doujins in the back left, I was able to find that. And they had a full shelf of Kemono Doujinshi specifically. So I spent a lot of time. This is one of the ones I just pulled up a stool and started pulling them all off the rack and looking at them. It was so much fun. Rashiban in Kyoto, I asked for kemono and they were confused by my request and they asked for pictures. I was like, do I really want to do this right now? So ultimately they took me to kemono and nothing furry. So they just didn't have it there. What I'm starting to learn here is the Mandarake knows what kemono is. They know what I mean by that. None of the other stores really seem to know. Another Mandarake, when I was in Osaka, I went up to Kyoto and Osaka for the last couple of days of the trip. They had male dojo on the 6th floor and it was organized by genre. Each IP had their own subsections. That was their kind of line of organization here. And it had a B-Star section. I give it a check for that. Nobody else had that. So I got one of those. And I had another jackpot at the Mandarake de Tomato, which was just a couple miles away from the previous one. They had a full shelf of kemono there. And they even had this cute little guy on the side. Kind of an angry guy. But they had nice drawings for all their different genres, which I thought was cool. They had small sections for Undertale and Pokemon, but the vast majority of what's here is just OC content. And if you like this particular type of character here, like big cats, there's so much of that in Japan. That is a really popular style. It's not what I was looking for, so I don't have any of it. But if you like that style, you love shopping in these places. And this bonus store, I didn't go here, but I found this only through Googling in Japanese. So I wanted to bring it up because you would not have found this through any Google searches in English. Someone posted this picture. The interesting thing about this picture, it's Kemono Doujinshi. There's so much of it, it is organized alphabetically in Japanese by the artist's name. That's dedication. And someone made a tweet basically saying how crazy it was that this furry section was so well designed and made them laugh. And someone left a reply that says, Mandarake in Akihabara has a kemono section, but it's not as detailed as this, and the selection is not great. That was one of the best shops I found, and they're saying it wasn't that great. They're positing that there must be some furry people on staff here. So next time I go back, I'm gonna check out this store, because apparently they have a huge selection of kemono there. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up. Now, say you can't go to Japan, not everyone can go right now. You can order from the Mandarake online. They are the clear winner on Kemono Doujinshi. We ordered some of this like a month ago. It got here in 2 days. Like we were like, did that even take a break? Like was it the second I ordered it, it just flew and got straight here to my house? It was crazy. Some of it took like 3 weeks. It depends on which store it's coming from. You will have to check out separately for each physical storefront location. They have an English site that you can shop on, but beware that all of the data, including titles, are machine translated. They're basically Google translated. Those are not the real titles of the books. So you're not gonna find the correct info there. You can search by title, but again, you can find the same book translated 2 different ways into English as a title, and you won't know that they're there. Some search keywords may be missed when you're searching this way, but I found that browsing by tag, like if you find one you like, say you want Pokemon, go here, click on the Pokemon tag, Pokemonsta, use Google Translate, figure it out. And just browse through that tag rather than trying to search. You're not going to be able to do like E6 level queries on this. And do avoid eBay if you can. The manga here sells for like maybe a 1,000 to 2,000. It's like the yen is the upper limit, which is like $15. Stuff on eBay is going for like 80 to 100 bucks. You want to say something?
In case you don't mention it, make sure to use DHL when you check out because it's only marginally more expensive than like the small air packets, just Air Japan, and it is so much faster. All the Air Japan that we did, it took like 3 weeks to a month to get here, but the DHL was all here within like a week.
So you heard it here first, order DHL. I'd forgotten about that, thank you. So that was my trip through Japan. I want to share what I consider the worst of my collection here. I regret buying these. I have Mickey Mouse hentai. It's awful, but I could not get that. It's so bad, and don't worry, I have it here. You can look at it. I don't recommend it. And of course I have Sonic. You gotta have Sonic in any Rule 34 collection. I hate it. The worst part about this is when you're buying in Japan, they have the option to get a tax refund, basically. It's called tax-free if you don't live there. It's to promote tourist buying things. Every shop does it differently. When I took this and they asked if I wanted tax-free, I said, sure. They take me to a separate counter and they stamp the receipt into my passport and say, take it to the airport and they'll give you a refund. No fucking way. Am I going to the airport and saying, can I get a refund for my Sonic hentai? I respect the country too much to do that. So let me close it out. The best thing I have in my collection, I have two I want to mention. I forgot to add the second one here, but first off is my absolute favorite one in this collection. The Monsters Inc. Randall and Mike Wazowski. It's not porn. It's just a cute story. And it makes no sense. I've tried to Google translate it. It's called Ranmai, because Randall and Mike. And really this picture is, I mean, come on. What is happening? This never happens in the book. The artist just felt the need to draw that. It's a bread in a bag, so like very exciting. You know, I don't know what to think of that. I left all the links here to my sources, and of course that's from the Monsters Inc. one. And I have a link to this presentation on Google Drive. I'll post it for someone to come, or maybe not that chat, take some plus, whatever. DM me if you want any more details. I got my Telegram there.
Wait, other favorite.
Yes, my other favorite, I forgot to mention, is this one. Who knows what the Japanese name for Umbreon is?
Oh,
It is Blackie. Meraki specifically. I'm so sorry. I did not choose that name. So it's Bracky, and the word for baked sweet potato is yakimo. So this doujin here is called Brakimo, and it is a story entirely, a bunch of short stories about Umbreon being very self-conscious because all the other Pokemon are trying to eat his sweet potato ears. That's the whole comic. It's adorable. I love it. Please check this one out.
That sounds incredibly silly.
It's very silly. So yeah, that's the presentation. Yeah, any questions? I'll take a couple before we just break to come look at these if anyone has any. I just want to get
am I being graded on this?
Yes. You're being graded on your choices. All right, well, that's about it. Again, come talk to me if you have any questions. Otherwise, feel free to come up and take a look at all these. Just don't take them out of the room, but you can. Thank you.